The number of encounters at the U.S. southern border go down, but what other ways are people coming into the United States illegally? And a policy change that could affect Americans specifically who live between Texas and California in 7 counties, and other Americans who simply want to go across into Mexico to buy things like their medicines. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Immigration Crisis, the Fight for the Southern Border. For Sinclair Broadcasting in San Antonio, Texas, I'm Jami Virgen. I hope you guys are doing well, and thank you for listening to our podcast. We try to do it every week. We travel a lot along the border here, and we have our co-workers, my colleagues, Jordan Elder, who covers the border with me, and also Mariah Medina, who covers a lot of issues that are brought up on immigration up in the Texas Capitol in Austin, which is in session right now. So today, the first story that we're going to bring you is a story that I've worked on for about 8 months. It was allegations that were brought to me and documents that were brought to me of possible student visa fraud. And I kind of looked and went, okay, how often is this happening? Well, as I started digging in and looking, something just didn't quite add up. This fraud that was brought to me, alleged fraud that was brought to me, is happening when some athletes are coming to the United States. Specifically, we're looking at football to play here in colleges and universities in the United States, some of them receiving scholarships, full rides to play. So we started the investigation, and what you're about to hear is the first story we aired about a month ago. Australian punters and kickers are in high demand in college football. From the Notre Dame champions to programs right here in Texas. UT Austin, have some fun. Texas Tech, and UTSA all have Australian players that have secured key roster spots. However, allegations surfaced 7 months ago suggesting that not all kickers and punters playing college football from Australia in the U.S. were eligible to receive not only a scholarship, but also a student visa, potentially violating NCAA regulations.
Well, the injustice is not only players that are doing it the right way, Australian, international players, American players that are doing it the right way, that have legit transcripts.
One college coach who spoke to us anonymously first encountered this issue while recruiting a player who had already used some of his eligibility in Australia. He later discovered that the same athlete was re-represented as a 4-year eligible freshman by the Australian company Prokick.
Apparently, he had started working with Prokick, and these coaches that I was talking to were under the impression that he had 4 years to play. He had never been to college. And I said, that's not what, when I was recruiting him, he had 3 years to play too.
We enlisted the help of an Australian private investigation company led by Ken Gamble to scrutinize the academic history of several Australian punters who have received a scholarship.
These students that we've investigated have attended university full time, and we don't believe that that was disclosed. If there's been misrepresentation of their educational standards, then this is not only a violation of the NCAA eligibility rules, but it's also a fraud.
In one case, an athlete's real transcript from an Australian school showed failing grades. However, the transcript submitted for NCAA eligibility had significantly higher grades, allegedly falsified to meet academic requirements.
He had 3 sets.
What?
So we had one from the school.
Okay.
One from Prokick. But when they looked at it and they sent it to him, his GPA wasn't high enough out of high school. So they redid it and he sent it to me.
An Australian trainer who also requested anonymity provided us with several transcripts that he claims were altered by Prokick to help players secure U.S. scholarships.
There was a kid that actually outed himself. They sat down. He sat down with his advisor and said, "Oh, you need to take these classes and these classes." And then he's like, "No, I already took that in university." And they said, "What?" They did some research, and they said, "You've already went to uni. You got 2 weeks to pack your bags and get out of here."
We reached out to Prokick Australia for a comment, but have not received a response. Coaches and trainers tell us this not only undermines the integrity of the scholarship system, but also takes away opportunities from American athletes. Mike Maccabee, a renowned special teams coach, has voiced frustration over the impact of Prokick's recruitment on the U.S. market.
Punting has dropped over, 54.3%.
Maccabee is the owner and founder of One-on-One Kicking, one of the top training programs in the country. We're specifically talking about Prokick. Are you familiar with some of them and what's been going on?
Yeah, I am. Yes, I think the whole country pretty much knows in our industry and kicking what's going on.
Like other coaches and trainers we spoke to, Maccabee believes many of these players were not eligible due to issues with grades and prior playtime in Australia. He argues that there needs to be better oversight in college football.
When you see a certain company that guarantees that you're going to have a full scholarship no matter where you go, or if you come there to train there, that's a big red flag.
If these athletes' eligibility records were falsified, then their student visas may also contain false information.
If you're coming from a different country, you'd have to alter your visa just to be able to get into the United States. So, that there is a big no-no.
Our sources say the fault lies not with the players themselves, but with the companies representing them and the college coaches accepting them without proper independent verification. Another source with the NCAA tells us it is difficult to verify documents halfway around the world.
So it's not necessarily their fault, but it is like these college coaches, they don't really know either, because they're taking Prokick at face value when they say, no, he has never been to college.
Private investigator Ken Gamble believes the ultimate responsibility falls on U.S. colleges to properly vet scholarship applicants.
What they should be doing is they should be getting the student to sign a disclosure document, allowing them to seek the information. They should sign a letter of authority, allowing the university over there to obtain any historical educational records from universities in Australia.
And we're going to follow up next week with the following story. Actually, a lawsuit that has now been filed against the NCAA, and we're going to have that follow up next week during the podcast. And I do also want to be very clear that when we do stories like this, we have legal counsel that goes over our stories, the scripts. They verify that due diligence has taken place. And I want to thank our counsel, who never gets named, but Charles Bales, who's always helping us, and we appreciate his help. And, you know, he may not be the journalist whose name comes out on this, but, you know, he's there helping us out with these stories to make sure that everything that we do has due diligence and that we're putting out there the most accurate information that we have. Also, of course, photojournalist Paul Sanchez, who not only goes with me to the border to shoot these stories, but he also edits and he also does the podcast. So thank you, Paul. Now, on that note, Paul and I went down to Laredo earlier this week on a story that's going to be coming out next week on Tuesday. It's a policy change that's going to happen. So along the border, there are places called exchange houses, casas de cambio. That's where you go and you take your money and you exchange it into pesos, or if you're coming back, you exchange it to the US dollar. There is no reporting done of any amounts that are lower than $1,000. Over $1,000, they need your social security, they need an ID, and this happens in the banks and in the Casa de Cambios, the exchange houses. Well, the new policy that's supposed to take effect on April 15th would now require only the exchange houses to do the reporting for any amount that's over $200. That would mean thousands of these reports having to be done by these very small businesses along the border. And it's not the whole border. It's only, I'm told, 7 counties. And we'll put up the documentation when the story comes out so you can check it out. We went down to Laredo and spoke to some of the owners of these exchange houses, specifically the ones that are located in one of those counties. And one of them was Webb County, which is Laredo, Texas. The other one we spend a lot of time in is Maverick County, which is Eagle Pass. And then you have Valverde County, which is Del Rio. And then you move on over to El Paso. Then you go on over to California. I believe it's San Diego. What we're going to share with you today is the conversation with some of the business owners. Talk to me about how well guarded is the U.S. government to what you do? How well are they keeping track of the money that you exchange or goes in and out?
We have an audit every year, more or less, year and a half, with the Texas Department of Banking and the MSB department also. And they always get all the information that they need for all the business that we have in the border.
How many businesses do you have that are exchange houses?
We have from El Paso to Brownsville, I think 42 business.
Okay. So this new change would affect which one of your businesses?
The way that is structured right now for $200, it's a lot of work, and people that come here is 81% less that they exchange $200 or less. So the main problem here is that banks are competing with us, and they're not subject to do the same as ours.
The same scrutiny.
Yeah, and also in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, and the border from Mexico, if you go over there and you exchange any kind of money, they don't ask you for any documents. And here, the problem is that Social Security, the U.S. citizen, they don't want to most of the time because of the Privacy Act and all that. So that's it. We're in disadvantage, the business that we're in the border.
Okay, so your businesses now, the counties that have to change, does that make any sense to you? The counties that they're going to force to do this now, does that make any sense to you?
No, I think it's too low. I think the people that make the decision in Washington or in Vincent, they're not aware of how the people lives in the border. Most of the people are U.S. citizens that works here in Laredo and Brownsville or El Paso, and they cross every day to the Mexican side. And the people that's I think in the north, they don't know about all the people that work here.
And the people that you're seeing are not going to be people with a ton of money.
No, the way it is structured, all this business, we have a lot of we supervise a lot, and the people from the cartels are not coming here to launder money. It's impossible to do that. There's no way they can.
Mostly working people?
No, working people, the people that work in the garden, like housekeepers, carpenters, the guy from the cement, all the people that comes and work here and go back the next day or 2 days, they work here and they go, but they can pay for most of them. So it's impossible for people that work here like a day to day, they can launder money. Also, these people don't have a bank account because what they charge the bank
non-sufficient.
They don't like that. So they're poor people. If you can see the people that come to our business are very, very poor people, most of them. You can see that the ladies coming there, is like you see all men, all ladies.
Older men and
Yeah,
women.
and that's the kind of business most of we have here in the border.
And then you were talking about the people like the gentleman with the big TV.
Yeah, like for example, most of the people come here and buy perfumes and TVs, and they go to Walmart and Target and all that. They come here and they go because they get a better price here than Mexico. Like you see in the other store, there's a big 55 TV because the guy is saving like a 50% this size.
And then they take it back across.
Yeah.
And he's a U.S. citizen.
Yes, he was a U.S. citizen.
Okay. What do you think? What would you say to Washington, D.C.?
I think that the people that make the decision, they're trying they don't know how it is structured. And also Arizona and New Mexico, they have also a border there, and I don't know why they didn't put over there. And some borders here in the south, like to Mexico, like Roma, Dona, Rio Grande del Rio, there's not in the target.
For you in Eagle Pass and Del Rio, what's your business like over there?
Eagle Pass is a very important business because all the people from the Chihuahua goes through Houston, through San Antonio. It's a small town, but Mexico is a lot of people that visit. I think Walmart is the number 2 in the nation there. So it's a big industry. There's a new beer factory there, Corona, that is installed in Mexico.
¿En Piedras?
En Piedras.
Okay.
And there's a good place for investing in Eagle Pass.
Friends, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Immigration Crisis, the fight for the southern border. In San Antonio, Texas, for Sinclair Broadcasting, I'm Jami Virgen, where we continue to be the eyes and ears of what's happening here at the border. Until next time.